So I have so much that I want to video today. It's not even funny, but I wanted to start by showing this big pile of post. My brother-in-law called my husband and he had pulled up all of his back fencing and replaced it with brand new post and brand new fencing. And he was going to reuse these, but by the time he got around to using them, they would have just been on the ground too long and probably would rot too. So we got all these fence posts, which are going to be great for some of the projects for fencing in part of the backyard here for the dogs to get out and exercise them. But also a lot of these are going to go into the garden to put out some more trellising.
Dogs.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Dogs.
Yeah, your Uncle Kenny gave them to us, so that's really helpful. And then there's still a huge fence along the front of their property. They have 10 acres that needs to be replaced. So that's another 20 posts at least that we'll be getting, I think. It's a good amount. There's 50 here. Only about 30 of them are in pretty much perfect condition other than the obvious defects on the facing. But they're all in pretty good condition. There's 4 or 5 that are a bit like this. So those I figured we'll just lay down and use for gardening or use for trellising. But I'm really excited because where the fencing ran through here, it was just stranded wire fence. There are these staples nailed into it, and we can actually run trellis through these or run string through them or wire and make a really easy to put together trellis. So that's really exciting. It's January, so it's the perfect time to grow peas, and I actually have a lot of pea seeds. Also, this will be really good for the beans and cucumbers once that hits. We ate every single cucumber that we grew last year. They just plowed through them. I didn't have a chance to preserve a single one. My kids have discovered how much they love pickles all of a sudden. All 4 of them are just eating pickles, and my 3 younger kids literally sat down and ate a small jar of pickles in like 5 minutes between the 3 of them. So I'm pretty excited to show all the projects I'm going to do with this. So I was gone this week. It rained a lot. So look at all this back here. It's just completely soaked with water. It's several inches, 6+ inches in some areas deep. And then over here, this is where I was burning that fire the other day, guys. Look at this. All this water. I'm stepping in water and it just flowing into my boots. So I know it's quite a bit. It looks a little less deep than it is. You can see on these posts it's not so deep in this area. It's really where it's kind of dug down and steps down more. I was just talking about wanting to plant all those turnip seeds last week, and then we got busy and it didn't happen, and thank goodness, because all this rain hit. So all of those turnip seeds would have went from all the way over here all the way in the corner and just washed right off the property. So this is why for so long I had ducks and geese in this area, which my mom wanted to expand this to make this all for livestock, and I was joking that we would have a lot of ducks, geese, and chickens back here if we did that. But honestly, unless this is built up, I don't see anything else it could be used for during the wetter months. During the summer, it gets really like crazy dry. You could probably hill it up and grow watermelons or something like that. A lot of vining plants, so that might be a cool project. But yeah, during winter, this is a nightmare. And I'm just gonna have to walk through the water. I think I can walk around actually. So let me pause this video and walk all the way around the cabin and show you guys what I did last week. Oh, look at this. Even on the side of the cabin, you can really see now that the cabin's kind of built up and we're walking through this area more, because previously I didn't come back on this side unless I was doing something. So when it held water, I just ignored it. You can see it does hold water, and with the cabin kind of on kicks here, look, this is what the cabin's on, what they set it on when we had it delivered. You can definitely see everything. It's even more gross because the compost pile's in with the chickens. Look at that little mess, but the chickens are out there doing their job. See them over here breaking stuff down. Such good chickens. Pretty excited about that. I am a big fan of ducks and geese. They are my favorite animals on the homestead by far, but I'm really starting to see the importance of chickens the more that I have them, especially when it comes to composting. Ducks and geese will eat all of this, but they don't really they do dig around, but not in the same way chickens do. They don't really fully turn the soil. They just kind of, I don't know, stamp around in it. They do dig, and they dig nests and things of that such, but it's not the same. So these guys do, well, ladies actually, they're all girls, they do an amazing job of really tearing all of this up, rotating it, breaking it down. If you saw, we had hundreds of pumpkins in here after fall, and all of the insides that we had from hundreds of pounds of pumpkins that we preserved and put in the freezer. And these girls have just completely broken it down to where this is all that's left. So while we're still feeding them scratch from the feed store and actually a laying crumble, and the truth be told, we're feeding them the cheap GMO laying crumble. I really wish we weren't. I would really love to feed better feed, but the reality is that we're struggling to keep up with everything financially, and it's just a huge bill to feed that extra food. Is it worth it? Absolutely. And if you can afford it, do it. We're just not in that place. So I want to tell you that if you're not in the place where you can spend an astronomical amount on feed, or even afford a more expensive bag of feed, feed what you can. Do what you can until you can do better, and then do better. And there's nothing wrong with that. And honestly, we've been supplementing a lot with anything we could. We have supplemented with all these pumpkins. We have supplemented with the acorns that fall off the trees. Plus anything I pull from the garden, the waste from the garden, the leftover leaves and parts of the vegetables that we don't eat. So there's quite a bit. And like the fennel, when I have a huge amount left over, I just throw it in to the birds. So things like that. So there are different ways you can supplement to help with that feed cost. But if you're in a place where you just can't, it's fine. Because trust me, I've been there. I'm currently kind of in a weird spot when it comes to feeding the animals, because it hits you at a weird time. It can be rather pricey. Over here, guys, this is all that, where all the huge tree pile that was like 5-6 feet tall in the backyard was. And we've had quite a few trees fall down. You can see, let me hold it up high enough. Yeah, that tree broke off down there. So it's currently still back there. It's really wet, so I can't burn anything else. I was worried about a fire hazard because it's so dry back here. There's all this grass that needs to be cut down, but now it's rained quite a bit. One day the rain gauge caught 1.44 inches overnight. And that wasn't even for the full day. That was just while we were sleeping. That was pretty incredible. And then here's the water standing in here. We're kind of on the opposite side of the fence, so you can see where it is now versus where we were before. I walked around the long way, so my boots didn't get full of water. They are still damp on the inside, which is uncomfortable. But here's all this pipe I've actually started seeing, and my granny told me some good ideas to use these for. So that's something I'm considering. I do get nervous about the idea of growing in PVC. We know that it can leach, but also, I don't know, there's some cool ideas. I'd like to give it a go and see what happens. So might be trying that out, at least so we put a use to these things. They've just been sitting here for what, a year at least now? I don't know how long anymore. And then here's all of this. So the wood pile's completely gone. You can see where all the vines and sticks or stuff that are broken down are. There. Ooh, what is that? Oh, it's just a stick. I get nervous because we do have snakes out here. We do have poisonous snakes. We have all kinds of snakes. And with this being a wood pile, obviously they were definitely in here. When the water gets high, you see a lot more snakes. Look at this. This is all that's left. It's just a lot of leaves and smaller brush, which needs to be broken down. And then this big tree right here that fell along the fence line a while back during the storm. And let me just zoom in. You can see, ooh, where are we at? It's so covered by brush. There's bigger logs right there, but it's so covered by these vines you can barely see the big logs. But see right there, you can kind of see like a little hint of log. But yeah, this is a whole tree right here that fell down. So all of that needs to be cut up and gotten rid of, but now it's in a swampy area. It's covered in all kinds of vines, poison ivy, everything else. It's a bit of a mess, and it's really watered. logged. You can see the water all throughout here. So I need to figure that out. Also, right here on the edge of the property, I think these are iris that are growing. They have really pretty yellow flowers. And they get really tall. So I think I'm going to dig some of those up. I heard that they were poisonous and they can make dogs sick if you eat them. So I want to be careful not to put it in the area where the animals are. I don't know how true that is. I'm honestly, if you're watching this and you know, leave a comment telling me. I'll Google research it at some point by myself. But I really don't know. I just know I'd rather be safe than sorry since I haven't done my own research. But how cool would this be in different areas of the yard to create a border and pull in more pollinators? I thought that would be really neat. Maybe in the front yard, especially because there's not a border along near the road. And I really would like to kind of block off where the garden is and give us a hedge, both for wind protection and noise protection, but also because the garden doesn't always look its best. It doesn't always look pretty, and there have been times where we're trying to bring stuff in and build the beds and the city's complaining about the wood and it not looking great, or little containers that are in there. So we've had to really be careful about what containers we use and what wood we use and how long we leave it on the ground, which I understand the reasoning, but it gets to be a real pain to get everything done and have to worry about that, especially when you're just trying to work through it and get stuff done and you're actively working on it. Look at this. I'm not gonna lie, I would literally come out here and probably could record just a 30-minute video of watching these squirrels dig around in this compost and break it up and eat everything. And I would probably sit there and watch it. My daughter loves aesthetic videos. She loves watching the animals in the garden put with music, and I thought it would be really fun to make some of those videos with her. Those rain videos that I record, I know they're kind of cheesy, but my 6-year-old listens to that rain video every night when she goes to bed, and so does my husband. So it's really cool, you know, that they ask, and especially she asked, can I listen to my rain, so that she can go to sleep every night. So I thought that was a really cool idea. Look at these guys. They're so cool. Okay, so all of this is incredibly muddy, and your banana trees look terrible. No. I know. They're gonna come back whenever it warms up again, but they look pretty rough. So all of this is extremely muddy around the cabin, and you see the areas now that are holding more water. So I'm thinking maybe I should put some brick paths in, but that would also be a bit pricey. Although a really cool project, right, over time. But I think definitely putting some cool paths in would make a difference. This is where all of the wood piles used to be up front, and we actually burned those this week. And we did it in such a way that it benefited us because we had some stumps in the front yard we needed to burn out, and we put that wood on them and burned out the stumps using the wood that was over here in this pile. So kind of two birds with one stone, so to speak. But now I can definitely see where water's setting. Now this area is cleared out. And so it's different than this area, which we built up by bringing in the bedding from where the chickens and the ducks bed. At the time it was duck bedding, and laying it in here. And it's amazing the difference in how this is just draining off so well. There's no water in any of this part where we have the bedding, and this is in between the blackberry beds. And I'm gonna do a separate video on this, but look at this. The blackberries, they are turning colors. They are turning red, and they are growing. Look at this. There's so many, and on this one is insane how many flowers are on this one plant, just on this one little branch in this section. The older they get, the more they produce, and these have been in the garden for a few years now, so it's really cool seeing how much they're producing. But having berries pretty much all year round is really cool, so I'm incredibly excited about this. Earlier I came out and I saw a little fly on the berries, and I was going to record this housefly on the berry flowers, and then a bee came, a honeybee came and scared it off and started pollinating the flower. So I was able to get that instead, which I thought was really cool. So another thing is, as you can see, I still haven't got around to finish the bed. I'm going to end up posting, I have a couple videos that I need to post that are on private right now. I haven't edited them or really looked over them to see what they are. And so I'm going to post this and you're going to see those videos completely out of order. So you'll still see the wood all piled up and everything else, and it might be a little confusing. But keep in mind that happened a week or two before all of this. And so this area we haven't fully, I'm going to do that this weekend while I'm here. Pull all the grass out. But over here we have pulled out all the grass, and last weekend on Sunday before we went back to the camper for the work week, I managed to get all of this fennel transplanted from the other garden. It was really tall, and I cut the tops off and buried the roots. Fennel, one of those things, even if you have a small piece of root attached to it, you can put in the ground and it grows really well. And also hilling up dirt around it like this causes the bulb to get big. So this is a Florence fennel, which is a bulbing fennel. And so here's where the bulb is, right here. This will turn into a bulb. And these are one of my favorites. They kind of taste like licorice, but you can boil it if you don't like the licorice flavor, and then it just kind of tastes like cooked celery. A bunch of nothing, really. But it's a great way to get nutrients into your food, and it produces a lot really fast. When I first started growing fennel, I got just a couple of plants. I think I started with 2, and then it ended up breaking it up to a 3rd plant. Planted it, and I thought they just produced 1 bulb and that was it, but they didn't. They ended up spreading out, producing multiple bulbs, then seeding, and those produce bulbs. And every one of these plants in here, what is this right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and here's smaller ones, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 plants of fennel. In this one section, I didn't pay for any of them. They all came from those original 3 plants, and there is a huge amount of fennel, probably 50 plus plants over there, plus the babies that have currently popped up. And these are the ones that sprouted from seed that just pop up. And so they spread through the bulb and they spread through seeds, and you can pluck up these little plants and transplant them, and it doesn't matter how deep they are, they do so well because they need to be hilled up around them, have dirt. And what I mean by hilled up is when you put dirt up around them so they'll bulb up, kind of like some people do with onions. And so there's no worry about planting it too deep. And if you're new to gardening or a nervous gardener, you worry about those things. This is not something you have to worry about that with. And I love that about Florence fennel. And I love the taste of licorice, so it's so good to snack on these in the garden. But I also love that for the family members, especially my children that despise the taste of licorice, I can cook this in a way that it no longer tastes like that. It's also really good boiled and dehydrated. And then it's just like adding celery to soups and things of that, which I really enjoy. So all of this came from those 3 plants. So even if you have to go to the grocery store and get you 1 organic plant, I could only afford a couple because they're like $5 a piece for this organic plant. But you can see it is the gift that keeps on giving. So this is really exciting. This is why I love perennial gardens, because they just continue to produce throughout the years. And that's really nice. And then also, this is our 3rd year cilantro. This cilantro came from cilantro that was in the front garden. I fed it after it died back, and I harvested all the seeds I wanted for coriander and all the leaves, threw it to the animals, and these sprouted this year. So this is now like 3rd or 4th year cilantro plants. And here they are. They look so good. I say 3rd or 4th year because I've seeded 2 years. The earliest year was 3 years ago for sure, because the last seeds I put said 2nd year. So then those were 3rd year. But there are also some that are a little older that are 4th year. So these are somewhere in between there. And these would be 4th year then, 3rd and 4th year. So that's... Am I confusing y'all? I'm confusing myself. And then here's one more cilantro plant. So I transplanted all these, and then I noticed that they were really looking sad. So I cut them all the way back to just all the roots almost. and then they've started growing back. They do really well in cold weather. They will just go straight to seed if I plant them when it's hot outside. So this is really great that I get to do this in cool weather, get them out here and grow. And I think in between these plants, I know the cilantro will grow big, but it's going to be a little while, so I'll either go get more cilantro and plant it in here, or I might plant some of the Swiss chard that I got today in here. And I'm going to do a separate video on that, and probably a separate video on the blackberry plant production, because I get a lot of questions about blackberries, like a crazy amount, and we grow a lot of blackberries, so there's a lot of information to cover about how much they produce and when, how. They're one of my favorites. So the blackberries were my 8-year-old's idea a couple years ago. He was a little bitty guy, and I'm really glad that we got them because they are amazing, and it's been a really fun way to get Sam into the garden. So here's the lettuce that we transplanted last week. There are 4 of them we found in the yard and transplanted. They're doing really good. And then my sister came out and pointed out, let me try to find them. Oh, here we go. All the little seeds she planted. Look, some little lettuce seeds are sprouting in the garden. Isn't that so cool? And I think there are some more. Yeah, here's some over here. Some more little lettuce seeds. They're all different types of lettuce. So there's a lot of lettuce seeds just sprouting everywhere, and that's going to be really exciting to have all these seeds and popping up, have all this lettuce that we grew ourselves, and we'll just be able to move them once they get big enough. After sprouting, we can move them to space them further out, so I'm not really worried about that. I would rather have her involved in the garden and sowing seeds than worry about perfect spacing. I feel like that's something I can deal with later. Now, if I were growing these professionally, maybe it would be a little different, but right now I think this is a great way to get the kids involved. And look at this. These lettuce leaves are actually decent size. You could harvest these at this size, easily. And this would make a good little bit for a sandwich, personal salad. We're a big family, so this wouldn't do much for us unless there was one person putting it, like I said, on a sandwich or something. But these are absolutely ready to harvest now. I'll be glad when more of the lettuce pops up so I can come. I love picking off these bigger leaves because they tend to get little spots on them or dirty or flop over. So my favorite thing is to pick these leaves off and use those for different things. Which I might come out here and harvest some of those leaves because my mom actually loves putting them on her sandwich, and she's doing a pretty good job trying to eat a little healthier. So I think having that on to put on her sandwiches would be a good idea. These are those Cimarron lettuce, and they're one of my favorite, and they get more red the colder it gets. When it gets hot, they're actually more of a greenish color. And I've made a video probably 8-9 months ago. This time, I don't know, it may have been even longer than that, but it was during the cooler months last spring that I made a video with my son on us harvesting and growing this lettuce, and it is definitely a different color in there because it's warmer. So I'm going to get more of these Cimarron lettuce planted, and I have a whole pack of these seeds left from last year because this is my favorite lettuce of all time. It is perfect for every use. It's great for storage, it's great for immediate use. It's soft like butter crisp or butter crunch butterhead lettuce, but it can be washed easy and stored longer. The leaves can be used as very small greens, or they get bigger like this, and they can be used in salads. So it just has so many uses and such a great flavor. It doesn't bolt as easily, and it doesn't get as bitter as some other lettuces. So I really love that about it. And look at this. This is that chard that I was talking about. I picked up at the grocery store today. I think I was talking about, I'm not sure. But it actually has several sprouts in each one. So I went ahead and paid the extra money to get some of these sprouts already sprouted. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think, in that one, and then some in this one. And I got only one yellow, but a bunch of reds, which are my favorite. They cook up so well and maintain their color. The leaves are great. Some of these bigger leaves are about ready to harvest, but they get larger and they really are really juicy. It's like, I would say really similar to eating different types of bok choy, but I don't know how to explain 100%. I do love these for everything. Stir fry, fresh eating. They're amazing. They grow well. So I'll actually separate every one of these plants into individual plants, and I'll record that whole video separately so you guys can see how I do it throughout the entire process. But that's one of my favorite things to grow, and I wanted to get some in the ground now without having to wait for seeds to start. So when I saw some at the grocery store, I was like, absolutely, I'm going to buy these. Now, rainbow chard and Swiss chard, I believe, are both biennials. So it takes 2 years for them to produce seeds, sort of like kale, which is why they grow so well in the first year despite all the different weather without bolting, unless there's a lot of severe weather changes. I have never had one of these bolt that I know of. So that's really cool. I have had kale bolt, but I've grown the same kale for 2 or 3 years in my garden, and that was really cool. And then look at this. Look how big these onions are getting. Are they doing so well? These are leftover from last year's onions, so that's really cool. And then these are the transplanted giant red mustards. This one here. And this one, the leaves looking a little rough there. And this one. But this one was clipped all the way down because it got ran over by the lawnmower. So these are actually doing really well. This leaf needs to come off because it looks pretty bad. Look at that. This is a gorgeous color. Now this is a really strong mustard, garlicky flavor. So this is something I would say if you want to grow the giant red mustard, also known as the Japanese mustard, you better like that mustard flavor. Look at this onion leaf. It's like 18 inches tall and pretty thick. So these might actually bulb this year. We use so many onions for green onions that they get eaten usually before they even have a chance to really bulb out. I definitely think onions are one of those things we could grow 2,000 onions a year, and probably a 16-foot bed of heavily sown chives, and maybe not even have enough then. We use a lot of onions to cook with. And then look at this. This is that marjoram that we dug up that I was worried about the cats getting in there. But look at it. It looks so good now. It's really grown up. It's not as woody over here because this is all new growth. And it's not as established. It was some of the younger parts of the plant that popped up in the other bed where my son has been growing it for at least a year now. So I'm really excited that we're able to transplant some over here. I put in this blue container so it could take over the entire space and just have it to itself, because these herbs, they will take over everything. And then there's a couple more things just in this section. It's insane how much there is to show off today. So another thing is our fig plants actually look like they are producing figs, and the leaves look rough, but it's not anything that's rubbing off. It happened when we got that freeze. The leaves change colors. There's one, and here is another one, and I actually think these are baby figs. I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like. This plant has never produced fruit before, so that would be really cool to have some fruit on this plant. This my husband's boss gave us, and so that's really cool. Isn't that awesome? So I'm really excited about having this. It's a really awesome plant to have, and I'm excited that it's producing. It actually got ran over. My husband mowed it down once. He didn't realize this is where I planted it, and I thought it was dead, but it randomly just shot back up and started growing. So I'm really excited to see how big this plant grows. And yes, I have it next to the tree bed. It's kind of over here where the onions and all that are. Like, isn't this cool? The kids and I love decorations. My siblings love bringing out little decorations to go out here. And one last thing I'm gonna show before I'm gonna go is this over here. This is the thyme that we transplanted. And I did this last week. Put soil with my oldest son. I think it was my oldest, I'm not sure. One of my children helped me put the soil in here. And then these are all cuttings from thyme that I've been growing for quite a while now. It's one of the first plants I planted in the very front yard. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections of the root from that other plant. And look at this, there's actually more popping up over here by itself. It's already spreading out. And so you can see, like I said, these plants just spread out and take over, which is why I wanted to give it its own space to grow. And then really cool, it's in front of this tiller, which I don't till, but this was my grandfather's. He left it to me in his will. It didn't work, but it meant something to us, and it's really cool for my mom to get it, to come out here and see it. And then this was actually, I got this when my great-grandmother passed away. That's pretty cool to have all this kind of hanging out in the garden. I think it's really special, especially since my parents are living here now. It's even more cool for them to have all of this. So I think that's about it, because my camera only is letting me record about 32.5 minutes at a time, but this gives you a good overview of what's going on, how much we've accomplished in the last weekend, and hopefully I can show how much we're gonna do this weekend and get some of those videos posted. So thank you guys for checking out the garden and all the stuff that's happening here.